Hey, FlashPoint Army, are you looking for truth and news all in the spirit of faith? Well, don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to stay connected. Not a part of the FlashPoint Army? Sign up for the latest email updates at govictory.com/FP signup and join us as we stand for truth and freedom. Ohio next week, June 8 and 9. Now, I said I would tell you about our next couple guests. Of course, we just added Judge Jeanine. Pirro will join us on Friday, but new guest, just confirm, Jim Caviezel and Tim Ballard. Now, Jim Caviezel, obviously, you know from the movie The Passion of the Christ. He's talking about his new film that's based on the life of Tim Ballard, Sound of Freedom. And listen, we were able to see a preview of it last week. It's an amazing film. He's going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about mobilizing people like you and I, the FlashPoint Army, who we are and how we can, as conservatives, stand up, do it right, but don't back down. And that's what we're going to do. So it's a star-studded cast. Listen, you want to be there June 8 and 9. So that's right. So Jim Caviezel is now confirmed. He will be there along with Tim Ballard, who was with the Department of Homeland Security. So this is a big deal, Rick. We're bringing in these guys to talk about it. I don't know if you had a chance to meet with him or not, but it's a big thing we got.
No, I didn't even know, so I'm excited. I'm going to be back, fanboying back there with a selfie and the phone and everything like I was last week with Michael Chandler, UFC fighter. So senators, president, I don't care about all that, but Tim Ballard, Jim Caviezel, these guys are heroes, man. I mean, they are. Especially Caviezel. You think about being willing to stand up in Hollywood, play Jesus Christ, and take on knowing that was going to blackball you in that arena. What he did with Mel Gibson for Passion was incredible. And then this one, to take on with this movie, the human trafficking and things that are happening out there, this guy's a hero, man. People need to show up to the FlashPoint event and meet him.
You're going to stay with us Friday all day as well.
Gene,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know what I love, Gene, about this show? In this show, I have to wait till the live broadcast to find out who's going to be at the next FlashPoint. Well, it's always a stimulation for me.
I know. That's when I'm here to keep you awake.
I'm telling you, that's great. And Jim Caviezel, hey, by the way, get him, Gene, make a note, will you? Get him to recite for you the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic.
Wow.
I was in a church with him, and he stood up and he said something so casually. He said, so bashfully almost. He said, he's a really beautiful man. He said, would you guys like to hear how Jesus prayed? It's like, yeah. He said, I'll give you the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic in the language that he would have spoken.
Wow.
And he proceeded to do the most eloquent and beautiful recitation of the Lord's Prayer, and the anointing just dropped on that church.
Wow.
Oh, I want to hear him do that.
That's a great idea, guys. Help me remember to ask him that. Judge Jeanine Pirro, you've been living under a rock. She debuted her weekend program, Justice with Judge Jeanine, in 2011 on the Fox News Channel. It's another little station, probably somewhere else on your cable. And it remained top-rated program in its time slot for over a decade. She hosts currently the 5 highest-rated program on that network. She resides in New York, along with the 3 poodles. Get this, Lance, Stella, Red, and Ted. All right, Judge Jeanine, welcome to FlashPoint. Glad to have you here.
Well, I want you to know I'm actually at home, and Stella, Red, and Ted are here. So they may make a cameo. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be great.
Here. I just got home from work, so I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I got a lot of questions. We're going to talk about your book in just a second coming out. But I want to know your take on what's happening with the whole fact that they're keeping Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The left is pushing him over to the side. He's polling better than even DeSantis is on some polls, depending on who you listen to. Is the left scared of RFK?
I think the left is scared of everybody. And the fact that RFK, with very little, kind of pomp and circumstance and all the other stuff that goes with it, the presidential announcement, the fact that he is able to garner 20% of the vote is really a testament to the fact that even the Democrats don't like Joe Biden. And they will do anything they can to keep this guy hiding. I can't wait to see how the campaign is going to be run this time. They don't have an excuse for the basement campaign, at least so far. But what they've got is they've got a whole crew of emissaries that they say are going to be out there campaigning for Joe. I guess it's under the Clinton term. that it takes a village. But I don't think America is really buying into that at all. And I think that the most important thing that people can learn from all of this is that Joe Biden, by using these emissaries, is proving that he doesn't have the physical vitality or the mental acuity to run a campaign. And so he's relying on these emissaries. And I thought it was fascinating that he said today that a lot of the people on the Republican side are competent, which I found, incredible to hear from someone in the Democrat Party. So I think Joe Biden will figure out some way to keep hiding in the basement.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this. When you see the left and what they're doing, what is it that you think? Now, our audience, Judge, is mainly conservative Christians. We don't say we're fair and balanced. We say we're the way to the right of center. We're unabashedly bold about who we are. What is it that our audience needs to know that you feel like most of America doesn't understand about this current situation?
Well, I think that, look, this country was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethics. When I was a judge in my courtroom above my bench, it said, "In God we trust." I think that America is moving so far from that foundation, right, that we are at a dangerous point that every person who is a person of religion or a person of God understands the inherent dangers of what is happening in America today. We are flirting with the kind of destiny that destroyed nations and fallen empires find themselves in. And so that's why I wrote the book, Crimes Against America, what the left is doing to our children in schools and to Americans across the board, and especially to those believers, people who believe in God and are faith driven, is it is destroying them. And, we saw it with the Dobbs decision, right, when our own Department of Justice would not follow its own rules of making an arrest of anyone who is parading or protesting in front of a Supreme Court justice's home in the hope of getting them to change their opinion. Not one of those people was arrested, but you can rest assured that everyone who was involved in any way, and some of them who were clearly innocent and found to be not guilty by juries later, who got involved in any kind of pro-choice objection, ended up being arrested and ended up being prosecuted. But any of the pro-life centers or the pregnancy centers, any of the attacks on them were not even they were not even investigated. Right. And so when you look at what is happening, the takedown of religion in America, it forebodes a very difficult future. And I want to throw one more thing in there, if you don't mind, and that is during the pandemic, there was a Supreme Court case, and you may know, I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA for over 3 decades. I ran for office 5 times. This is my wheelhouse. When a case went up to the Supreme Court, and the Calvary Church was a petitioner wanting to open its doors in Las Vegas, and the United States Supreme Court finally had the ability to hear that case, there were 3 petitioners. But it was originally the Calvary Church. The Supreme Court of the United States said during COVID, if you want to gamble in the casinos, have at it. You want to play that game of chance, go for it. If you want to go to a multiplex, Cineplex movie theater and see 18 at once, have at it. But if you want to go to the Calvary Church, only 50 of you will be allowed in that church at one time. I have to tell you, I almost fell over when I read that. I said, this is the Supreme Court of the United States. Was it something where they knew Dobbs was coming, so they were pulling back? There was absolutely no justification for that. No. And I think that people of faith need to worry about not just what's being taught in schools in terms of transgender nonsense, but what is happening in our society today against religion.
All right, your book, Crimes Against America, the left's takedown of our republic. I'm on in here on page 100. You said one of the first signs of growing criminal privilege in our system, a canary in the coal mine of our failing law and order system, was the concept of cashless bail. Why is that? Why do you say that's the basis?
Well, Look, bail is not something that is uncalled for, illegal, or inappropriate. It's ensconced in the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution. All of a sudden, these geniuses who think they understand law enforcement, who know nothing about law enforcement, who've never studied it, let alone lived in an area where they had any experience at all, they have decided that cashless bail is the way to go. And essentially what that means is that the criminal is released before the cop finishes his or paperwork. And it endangers a society, in a society where the first order of government is the protection of its people. But it's not just cashless bail where they say everybody gets to go out and as soon as they're arrested, if they're arrested in the first place. But what they're saying is you citizens, you victims, we're not taking your side. We're taking the criminal side. We don't care about you if you're a victim. You had a bad day. You had a bad go at it. We got to take care of the criminal. And that, along with this social justice, no one has defined, has turned a society that believed in law and order into one of chaos and anarchy. And, I believe in redemption, but I don't think it's for, these leftist, Marxist, socialist lawmakers to say, we're going to forgive all criminals and let them reoffend and reoffend and reoffend again. Because that's what's going on in America today.
Yeah, well said, well said. All right, Lance, you had a question.
Yes, Judge, I had a question. I read something recently that Gorsuch had written, to your point, about the overreach of government, and I think we all ought to realize when a Supreme Court justice alerts the citizens that you are giving up your powers too freely, that is a real warning shot. And then if I can throw in another question, help us understand a little bit about what we can find in your book, because I understand you have a new book out, and I want to make sure that we all hear about it.
Well, first of all, I appreciate both questions. I want to address the issue of Gorsuch and his concern for religion. But it goes back several years to Justice Alito, who said that he was starting to see this prejudice against religion and the freedom of religion being cut back, and cut back. So the conservative justices are seeing that. And anyone in America during COVID saw it, because it wasn't just that Calvary Church case that I talked about in Las Vegas. It was priests who were being arrested because they were celebrating Mass to parishioners in the parking lot. I mean, this is outrageous. It's unacceptable. And that's why I wrote Crimes Against America, the left's effort to take down our republic, because we are no longer a sovereign nation with laws. We are now nothing more than a globalist landing spot with benefits for anyone who demands entry. And, I believe that we need to be Christian and take people in, but there's got to be an orderly way to do it. We can't let people into this country that we don't know who they are, but we say, here's education, medication, housing, whatever you need, go for it. We need to know, who is a pedophile among you? Who is an MS-13 gang member? Who believes it's okay to beat your wife, to drive drunk, an identity thief, a terrorist? And I believe that there are many, many illegals who are coming here for a better life. But why aren't they waiting in line like everyone else? And now the Biden administration is allowing them to be released en masse into the interior of the United States, where a federal court actually had to stop the administration and say, look, you cannot release them. You've got to at least give them an alien registration number. They're basically going on an honor system where they say, listen, in a couple of years, if you don't mind, will you go to an immigration court? It's a bunch of nonsense. Americans work very hard, and we are the most generous, charitable people on earth. But don't ask us to take care of 5 million and then another 10 million people in the next 5 years about whom we know nothing. Yeah. And ask people to work 2 and 3 jobs, pay taxes, follow the law. In New York City, where I work every day, Midtown Manhattan, they're putting adult males, not families, adult males, into the gyms of schools and telling the kids, you don't have phys ed anymore. Go out and play stickball in the street. Now, I've been a prosecutor long enough to know anyone who puts an adult near a school, I want to know who that adult is. I want to know everything about them. But government is giving up its ability and its interest in protecting us. And let's talk about the fact that where they're talking about transgender in schools. Are you kidding me? that you're talking to a child behind a parent's back about whether or not they really want to be the sex that they were born in. I mean, this is unacceptable. And but for COVID, and here's the silver lining, we would never have known that white children are being taught to hate themselves, that they're oppressors. And but for everything that's happened, we wouldn't know that the FBI and the DOJ is turning the FBI against parents, saying they're domestic terrorists because they're concerned that their daughter, one in particular, was raped in a bathroom by a boy who identified as a girl that day. The school in Virginia tried to cover it up in Loudoun County. You know what they did with the young man? They sent him to another school where he molested another girl. Right. So you've got a takedown of religion, a takedown of a sovereign nation. You've got a takedown of the education system. You've got a takedown of the First Amendment. You're not allowed to speak unless you do it politically correctly, according to them. And then you're not allowed, if you're the press, to publish an article about Hunter Biden's laptop. So now we have big tech, the FBI. America is on the verge of, it's on a decline. And the question is, how long before we hit rock bottom? How long before this America last mentality, before these people who hate America are able to take her down and turn her into a socialist nation where performance and merit and capitalism don't matter, but instead everybody gets a trophy for showing up?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no participation trophies here. All right, I don't believe that's going to happen because I believe the good people in America are beginning to stand up. Yet where our fight, like you said, because of COVID, so much was revealed. Before you need to go, I want to show this one clip just recently from Charlie Kirk about being targeted by DHS. Watch.
So it is now official. The Department of Homeland Security, that's right, your taxpayer dollars going to DHS, targeting Turning Point USA. This DHS agent is putting on this seminar, and they have this pyramid. And in the pyramid, you'll see that there are different levels. So at the bottom, you have Heritage Foundation, GOP. At the very top, you have outright neo-Nazi organizations. But the second band is really interesting. You have Turning Point USA, you have Breitbart. They are targeting, our taxpayer dollars are targeting Turning Point USA. Now, this is important because if you know what happened with the FBI and their standing meetings with Twitter, with their meetings with Facebook, these lists, and remember, communists always make lists, are then used as prerequisites for censorship. No, these are then used for reasons to suppress our tweets, to label us as misinformation. Now we have smoking gun evidence that Turning Point USA, for our mission to get kids to love America, to pass on American values from one generation to the other, is being targeted by our own government.
All right, Rick, let me go to you first out of this. You see this now. Of course, Fox News is listed there. So is CBN, a lot of TPUSA, a lot of others are listed in that. What does this say? I mean, this is just another smoking gun, like Charlie said, of what we're dealing with.
Well, everything Charlie said, 100% spot on. The thing that bothered me the most about this, the little chart that they had, was that, FlashPoint and Patriot Academy weren't listed. It kind of hurt my feelings. I'm thinking maybe we were at the very top, like the apex, like we were worse than everybody else, and they just left that off. I don't know. But Charlie's 100% right in this. Absolutely, this should, again, well up a sense of justice. That's what I love about Judge Jeanine. I mean, you can hear and feel the sense of justice in her right now. The anger that's there, a righteous anger, because of how they're tearing down America. And they have to stop Turning Point and all of these outlets that are actually speaking truth. Otherwise, we're going to stop them. Just like you said, people are waking up and they're looking for answers. They need outlets like this to be able to give those answers. And Turning Point is making such a huge difference in so many areas. They're not just a college program anymore. They're training pastors, they're training churches, they're training candidates. They're involved in the culture war, and they're winning everywhere they go and fight. And that's why they're going after them now and claiming, labeling them as being as bad as Nazis. That's literally what they're trying to say with this chart that they're showing. So we've got to stamp this out, folks. This is why you've got to get rid of law enforcement at the federal level. It's not constitutional in the first place. Let's get it back to the state and local level. Let's get more judges like Judge Jeanine. Yeah, amen. All right, Judge, I'll get you to comment on the Charlie Kirk piece. What do you think?
Well, you know what? Charlie Kirk has been speaking about everything that's been going on in this country. He's like, the bird coming out in the coal mine. Charlie Kirk started talking about this before a lot of us knew anything about this. But we know that during the Obama administration, it was Barack Obama and Lois Lerner who decided that they were going to focus on the conservative groups, the 501c3s. And it was during the Obama administration that we first saw that sketch of the life of Julia. Julia's a little girl who was born, and then she has, I guess, food stamps, and then she gets a grant to go to college, and then she has Medicaid, and then she has Medicare. I mean, and we hear it now in Obama talking to school teachers saying, there are children. That is a whole Marxist mentality. And when people on the right start to make sense and start to explain this to America, and you put the pieces together, then it's clear what they're trying to do and what they have been doing. This is a long sought after effort for them to destroy the foundations of our country. And Crimes Against America, I talk about the fact that the schools are, in addition to, what they're doing to our children with the gender stuff, the ideological stuff in terms of the leftist socialism stuff. That's why we've got all of these CEOs of corporations who are so left-wing radical, because they've been brought up in our schools and we've known nothing about it. So the most important thing people can do is they can look at the school board races, find out who's running for DA. You do not want a George Soros funded DA in your county, because not only will your businesses not prosper, your home's value won't go up and your children won't be safe. All of these local level races are extremely important. And that's why I wrote the book. You can get it at judgejbook.com. If you want it, it goes to the whole process of what they have done to take America down.
All right, but Judge Jeanine, you're going to be with us next Friday there in New Albany, Ohio. You're going to sign a few books there as well, right?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward.
All right, so this guy's that's the whole reason to come to this FlashPoint Live right there. You're going to enjoy. Judge Jeanine, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you
for being a part of FlashPoint. We're on your team.
Yeah.
I don't want to cross you. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Pastor Hank, your final thoughts here as we begin to wrap this up.
Thank you.
It's a flashpoint moment. We're seeing the justice of God that is coming, and you could hear it in Judge Jeanine's voice. You could hear the passion, the fire, but you could also hear the cry of we the people. I want to leave a scripture for those of you that might be wondering, what is God going to do? Luke 18:7, watch this. Now will not God bring justice to those who cry not in day? He will avenge us speedily. And I believe this is the prophetic moment that we are in, because Isaiah 61:8 says, for I, the Lord, love justice. You need to love justice too. Continue to open your mouth and continue to do something for God and for your country, and watch righteousness and justice be established in our land again.